In FTL, no species are more zealous in the arts of border policing and bureaucracy than the Zoltan. Often found on college campuses, Zoltan contains so much energy that they can provide 1 bar of power to any primary system that they're located in. And they explode upon death, damaging foes around them when defeated. Both traits that real-life college students also exhibit. So some special notes on that first bit. They provide a bar of power to any primary systems. No subsystems because subsystems don't need power. And the bar of power that they provide goes in the first slot of that system, right? You'll see it's yellow. This only really matters in the weapons and drone system, as their bar of power, the Zoltan one, will go to power the very first weapon or drone slotted in. Also, this unique power of theirs can be used to quote-unquote clean systems. So, let's say you've used hacking or mind control, and now there's a bar of power or two locked in there. Well, if you have a Zoltan run through the room really quick, they'll replace the first bar of power with their bar of power, and then when they leave, it'll disappear, essentially freeing up 1 unit of power for you to use. Along with this too, ion weapons normally lock and drain power as well. However, they can't do that with Zoltan power. So if you have 2 Zoltans in a shield system that suddenly is ionized, well, there's still going to be 1 shield up. Brilliant. Anyways, the Wookiees lied to me. To quote it, they, the Zoltan, generally favor diplomacy over acts of aggression and are known for being fair and just in their dealings with others. These are lies. When I drive my ships through their systems, the border police freak out over a few unlicensed weapons, and they insinuate that one of our crew members is, quote, wanted on 5 charges of utter villainy. They also dare to suggest that we, of all people, we would violate the Natural Mineral Protection Act. Despicable. Well, in any case, I wouldn't call them xenophobic like literally everyone else save the NG. However, we'll just say they're very zealous. Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. They're also batty, a little insane. You know, they have these wise men that have a nasty habit of hiding in nebulas and yelling at passing ships saying, "Choose your doom," and then causing hostile ships to appear out of thin air and fight you. And the worst part is, if you win, these Zoltan wise men get so angry that they explode. And the thing is, there's not just one batty old man, there is at least 2 of them hiding about. Oh yeah, and there's this another one where some Zoltan will request to dock with you, and then they'll immediately start open firing. If you start beating them too hard, they're like, no, it was a test, we love to see everyone work together, it's a test, can we join you? We'll give you scrap, it's a test, it's just a test, man. Insane. Though, in all fairness, the Zoltan can be pretty cool. Sometimes they'll give out free drone schematics, kind of like the NG. Free stuff, and also, let's not forget, if you have a damaged stasis pod, well, they can crack it open and reconstitute that creature within it. Anyways, we can't talk about that now. We can't talk about that here. This is what the Zoltan government doesn't want you to know. In any case, let's move on to ship names. The Adjudicator. The Adjudicar. The Educator. Adjudicator. Judges and arbitrators are often known as adjudicators. They moderate and preside over disputes of official and legal varieties. Very Zoltan-y, considering they have swift justice. Also, it could be a reference to the StarCraft Judicators, as apparently their ships have a resemblance to the Zoltan ones. A coincidence? Who can say? The No-Ether. Emmy No-Ether was a mathematician who progressed the fields of math and physics. Listen, I'm not too qualified to talk on this. I'm not a big math guy. I'm pretty decent with words, but this was a little complicated. Seems like a lot of theoretical stuff. So, there we are. The Cherenkov. Now, this is probably referring to a Soviet physicist, Pavel Cherenkov, or perhaps his radiation. It doesn't come from him, but he discovered it. It's this really cool type of radiation that lets out a blue glow, and it's most easily seen through translucent substances like water. Essentially, the reason why it lets out a blue glow is the radiation is letting loose electrically charged particles that travel faster than light. And when seen through a clear medium, as I mentioned, water, they seem to glow blue. Pretty neat. See, I know a lot about radiation, but not a lot about math. It's okay. Ah, yes, and before we get to the ships themselves, let me explain something. The Zoltan are geniuses when it comes to energy, whether that's beam weaponry or especially their shields. See that weird glowing green shield around my normally perfect blue shield? Well, that's a Zoltan shield. And it can block all incoming weapons, hacking, and boarding drones, as well as mind control and teleportation. Isn't that handy? It has 5 HP, and it can only be recharged after damaged or destroyed by jumping to a new system. Now, you know how I mentioned no mind control or crew teleportation? That includes teleporting bombs, by the way. Well, if you have an augment known as a Zoltan Super Shield Bypass Unit, well, you can teleport whatever you want, as well as mind control whatever you want, on that super shielded ship. Though, unfortunately, you still can't send a little hacking drone over or any of your boarding drones. A little upsetting. In any case, every single Zoltan ship has a Zoltan Super Shield, so I'm just not going to mention it, just know they have it. Layout A. The Zoltan's advanced shield technology gives this ship an edge during each battle. Default name, the Adjudicator. Starting crew, 3 Zoltan. Starting reactor, 5. Starting systems. Engines, 1. Door system, 2. Starting weapons. A halberd beam and Lido missiles. Starting resources. 12 missiles and 2 drone parts. To unlock this ship, complete the Unarmed Zoltan Transport event or defeat the Rebel flagship with the Federation cruiser. This ship is very consistent, all due to it focusing on beam weaponry. Lots of damage, if you can break their shields. So, enter in the halberd beam. It's slow, but it does 2 damage and it can pierce 1 layer of shield, only dealing 1 damage instead. And it's a very big beam, it's long. It's solid. And while it normally takes a little while to charge, you can rely on your super shield to tank damage for you until it's ready. It's really pretty awesome. It's a very, very solid weapon, and Lord help your enemies if you get 2 of them. So the idea with this ship is try to get ion weaponry that can break shields down really quickly and effectively, and get more beams. Real simple, this ship's great. Oh, and along with that too, and this is true for every other Zoltan ship after this, try to get a slug. Or really any other crew member to help pilot the ship, because if you have a Zoltan piloting it, well, that's a bar of energy wasted. And every bar of energy you don't have to pay for is an upgrade to a different system or a weapon, augment, crew member, whatever else you can buy later on. And with that too, you can also ignore upgrading your shields early game, because the Zoltan shield essentially acts as a second shield layer for you. Very handy, very good, solid ship. Layout B. This ship starts with a weakened shield system and must rely on its Zoltan shield. Default name, the No Ether. Starting crew, 3 Zoltan. Starting reactor, 5. Starting systems, shields, 1. Weakened system. Weapons control, 4. Starting weapons, 2 ion blasts and a pike beam. Starting resources, 2 drone parts. To unlock this ship, earn 2 of the 3 Zoltan Cruiser achievements. This is the Adjudicator, but doubling down on
frickin' laser beams.
The 2 ion blasts, oh, perfect. Amazing shield breaking early game. Use one to break a shield, use the other one to stall their weapons. Mwah, can't be damaged, can't be touched. Great. And the pike beam, ho ho ho, this is shenanigans. It's very long, it can hit a lot of rooms. And with all beam weapons, you can do this fantastic thing where if you do some shenanigans, you move them around, you press pause and fang dangle them just right, they can hit a ton of rooms, way more than you think they should be able to. If it glows yellow, they're gonna hit it, and that's a damage. The pike beam is amazing for this. Get a second pipe beam, and your opponents are screwed. Later on, you will want to upgrade the Ion Blast to something better, but early game, you can use this ship to just rip and tear. Despite the weakened shield system, that's not a big deal. You have your Zoltan shield, and your Ion Blast will be able to disable their weapons before they can really hit you. If you play your cards right, you will be rolling in scrap. Get more beams, upgrade your ions, and really don't worry about your shield until, Sector 3 or so. Focus on everything else. It's a very simple ship in concept, and maybe if your first few runs it can be a little difficult to use, but overall, it has probably the best starting setup of any Zoltan ship. Layout C. The designer of this ship was not willing to spend the money for a decent reactor. Instead, it relies on its Zoltan crew and backup battery. Default name, the Cherenkov. Starting crew, 4 Zoltan. Starting reactor, 2. Starting systems, Clone Bay, 1, Weapons, 2, Drones, 3, and backup battery, 2. Starting weapon, Ion Charger. Starting drone, Anti-Ship Beam Drone 1. Starting resources, 2 missiles and 15 drone parts. To unlock this ship, get to Sector 8 with the Zoltan Cruiser Type B and Advanced Edition content enabled. This ship has a very weak reactor. So weak that it costs 30 scrap per upgrade until it's level 5. This isn't a problem. Not if you understand how to manage Zoltan well. This ship can be a little difficult. There are a few problems though we have to think about. Now, crew. You have to manage your Zoltan well. Early game, you really are going to want to be hoping for some sort of slaver event where you can either buy a crew member for really cheap or beat them up till they offer you a crew member for very cheap. Because you're going to need all those bars of power from the Zoltans as you can. And that may require you doubling up 2 Zoltan per room. I really don't like doing that as it means one of them isn't working or, he could be piloting a system. But in this case for this ship, you're going to need 2. Look for general upgrades, whether that's perhaps hacking or mind control, better weapons, or, better drones. That's another problem. Your drone is pretty slow, and you don't have a lot of power to activate him. So how do we take down ships with our starting configuration so we can actually get scrap or random augments, weapons, or whatever else? Well, I find that letting the Ion Charger go up to full, and then popping the backup battery, loosing the ion, and then starting up the drone using that backup power is generally the best way to go early game. It's very unwieldy. If you do get better weapons, just focus on upgrading the weapon system and pump all your power into doing that. And then later on you can, as you're suffering, you can turn off oxygen or clone bay. If something bad happens, pop the backup battery and flood the power into those systems. Your backup battery is going to be cheaper to upgrade than your reactor at the moment, early game. So, and with that too, it does provide a pretty significant amount of power when popped. So, yeah, essentially this ship, just be careful with it. That's my best advice, unfortunately. A quick note before we begin. So I forgot to mention at the beginning, Zultan are very unhealthy. They have 70 base HP, unlike the normal 100, making them much easier to kill than, other species. Now that that's out of the way, we can actually get into the rankings. So, let's start off with the Educator, Layout A. When talking about any sort of weapon for a military, consistency and simplicity are the key. And this ship is that. To begin with, the Zoltan Super Shield. You know how in every video up till now, I mentioned the amount of scrap that the starting augment sells for, and I mentioned, yeah, I generally sell this. I never sell the Zoltan Super Shield. For all these ships, fantastic. That greatly helps them. Never sell it, it's good. And something else that also applies to each of these ships, you want to try to get a different non-Zoltan crew member as soon as possible, because you get more power that way, and free power is a great thing. Alright, to begin with, the halberd beam on this ship is, very, very good. It slices ships apart early game. It's a little slow, once again, reliable, and your Zoltan Super Shield kind of offsets its initial slowness. Its shield breaking is baddish, The Leto missile is okay. Basically, you're going to want to try to find ion weapons as soon as you can with this ship. So I actually posed the question of these rankings to my Discord before filming this. The idea was, I write down my thoughts and then I compare them to what other people said. And one fella in there, we had a nice conversation the other night. Fluff, he gave me a very well thought out answer, which was fantastic. Great for comparing ideas. And he mentioned this too, and I didn't really think of it. Upgraded doors. Right? You don't really think about upgrading the subsystems because the main systems are generally more up front. You want to focus on them. But having upgraded doors, along with your squishy crew, really does help in repelling boarders because you can starve them of oxygen while your crew's fine behind their nice doors. So that's a fine point for it. I love my security aboard my ships. That's why I like slugs. So with that, I'm thinking that the Educator goes near the top of B. I don't think it's right at A material. I think it's bordering on it. And the only reason why it's really not an A is because of layout B. Spoilers maybe. The No Ether, layout B. As I said before, simple and reliable is the key to victory when it comes to any sort of military object. Well, the No Ether is the Educator, but more so. The Pike Beam and the 2 Ion Blasts, wonderful. Use both ions to initially take out the shield, and then focus them on the weapon system, kind of bouncing back and forth, or even just one on the weapons and one on the shield early game, and suddenly, despite your weakened shield system, that ship's not going to touch you. Late game though, you will need better ion weapons, or just better weapons. But in either case, that offers a lot of flexibility with this ship, whether you want to sell the Pike Beam and keep an Ion Blast or 2, and get maybe a Flak Beam or a better laser weapon, or if you want to sell those Ion Blasts and get a better, shield breaker. Really, this ship's very versatile, and with that level 4 weapon system as a starting base, it offers flexibility, a ton of it. And despite it having, once again, those weakened shields, costs 100 scrap to upgrade, it's really a great ship. Now once again, Fluff will come in here to add some nice comments. Boarding parties and a squishy crew. That's something this ship does suffer from. The not having level 2 doors, if a bunch of Mantis teleport aboard, or even a bunch of humans, that's gonna be a bit of a problem. You need to try to lure them to the med bay for best results, and even then, And with that, I believe the No Aether deserves right near the top of A. Its starting lineup is really good. Shield's a little annoying, but you can definitely work around that. It's just such a good ship for its starting lineup. Alright, time for layout C, the Cherenkov. What's interesting is, this ship seems like it should be a layout B. I feel like a lot of the layout Bs are very gimmicky. It's not the case for the Zoltan, it's the C that's very gimmicky. The whole thing with this ship is, its reactor sucks. 30 scrap to upgrade. That's bad. That's awful. The Charge Ion, it's a decent weapon actually. However, it's a late game weapon, is that a good way to put it? Early game, it's not being used to its full potential. Combined with the fact that you deal damage through an awful Beam 1 drone, I like my beams, but I don't like them on drones. It's so slow. And while normally the drone's automatically targeting systems is fine, for this drone, maybe it has a chance of hitting 2 rooms, but even then, it's not particularly great. So, I did a call in the Discord the other night, and me and Fluff were actually talking about this while playing FTL. And he brought up a really good point where the backup battery is really good to buy because it's so cheap to buy in stores. And starting off with it is kinda defeats the point of that. And I've been thinking about it while I was playing with the ship. It is really nice, and it provides a lot of power, but the scrap, I wonder if it's honestly worth the starting scrap to be included on this ship. It's very much a gimmick. And I don't think the Zoltan Super Shield really saves it from being bad. It's very slow. Personally, I like fast ships. That's why I like boarding ships. So I'm sorry, Cherenkov. Much like a fair bit of Soviet technology, you're gonna have to go down to E. You're not up there with the cool stuff like Kommandirskis. So with that, I think this video is done. Thank you all for watching. What the? Okay, so really quick, before I go, there was just this frickin' ad on the side of my screen. It just said 6 schizophrenic brothers, and I glanced over. What the fuck is going on? Well, in any case, now let's end this video. On that note, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. And if you want to talk to me about FTL, I'm going to try to do more, like, little voice call hangout things in my Discord. Go down below, go on below and waltz on in. We're half active, which is very cool. So yeah. Bye-bye!